Hey everyone! Tonight, we're drifting back, slowly, quietly, into the dim candlelit corners of the ancient world. So, settle in, dim the lights, and let the day loosen its grip a little. We're going to talk about beauty, or rather, whatever counted as beauty before moisturizers, dermatologists, and the ability to Google, "Is this rash normal?" Because as it turns out, when you give human beings thousands of years and far too much free time, they will attempt some astonishing things in the name of looking good. Some of it was creative, some of it was mildly horrifying, and a surprising amount of it involved things we now classify as poison, which is comforting. So let's drift gently into these rituals. No chapters, no urgency, just a slow wander through ancient powders, pastes, unguents, and unfortunate decisions. Let's begin somewhere warm and familiar. Ancient Egypt, where beauty was practically a national sport, and where the phrase natural glow usually meant the reflected shine of copper-based eyeliner that probably shouldn't have touched human skin. Ancient Egyptian women and men were absolutely devoted to eye makeup. Thick, dramatic black lines sweeping out toward the temples. A look powerful enough to give modern influencers a run for their money, despite the slight drawback that their eyeliner was made of lead, soot, malachite, and a sprinkle of wishful thinking. Now the Egyptians believed their eyeliner protected them from the sun, evil spirits, and possibly nosy neighbors. And in a way, they weren't completely wrong. The lead compounds in the makeup stimulated low-level immune responses, which helped fight off eye infections. So yes, they were poisoning themselves very gently, but at least they were doing it for health reasons. You'd think that would be the strangest part. But Egyptian beauty rituals had layers, literally. They shaved their entire bodies, everywhere. Smoothness was considered refined, elegant, and also helpful in preventing lice, which, to be fair, is the most relatable part of ancient beauty so far. They replaced their natural hair with wigs, so heavily perfumed, they essentially functioned as portable air fresheners. These wigs were sometimes melted beeswax, styled into elaborate coils that probably sagged charmingly in the afternoon sun. Imagine your hair slowly sliding down your face because it's 40 degrees outside and your stylist used candle wax. Fashion is commitment. Speaking of commitment, Egyptian women routinely exfoliated with sand. Yes, sand. Because nothing says self-care like rubbing your face with the same material used to erode entire mountain ranges. Their moisturizers weren't much gentler. Animal fat, milk, honey, and occasionally crocodile dung. There is no surviving record of how pleasant this smelled, but we can assume the answer is not great. Still, Egyptians glowed, sometimes metaphorically, sometimes due to the reflective properties of ground malachite. Let's drift onward to another civilization that took beauty to fascinating extremes. The Greeks liked their beauty natural, effortless, and, naturally, supported by hours of careful maintenance. The ideal Greek woman was fair-skinned, quiet, modest, and ideally uninterested in challenging any social norms whatsoever. To achieve the prized pale complexion, Greek women used white lead. Yes, we're starting to notice a pattern. Humanity has never met a toxic mineral it didn't want to smear on its face. White lead provided a smooth porcelain finish, which looked excellent in soft lamplight and considerably less excellent when it eventually ate through the skin. But beauty is pain, and in this case, also slow, heavy metal poisoning. To add a healthy flush, they dabbed on a touch of crushed mulberries or red ochre. A nice organic touch finally, except that the ochre occasionally contained iron oxide that was not ideal. For skincare, the Greeks adored olive oil. They bathed in it, massaged it in, and probably wondered why they still felt greasy afterward. Athletes even scraped oil and dirt off their bodies with a curved tool called a strigil, a word that sounds like it should mean relaxing, but absolutely does not. The Greeks plucked their eyebrows into one elegant arc. One, singular. The unibrow as high fashion trend is as old as philosophy itself. A famous poet even described the perfect brow as continuous, black, and noble, which is possibly the most flattering description of a unibrow ever written. let's glide away from the Aegean and into a world renowned for discipline, invention, and, unfortunately, mercury. In ancient China, pale skin wasn't just attractive. It signified status, refinement, and the comforting absence of farm labor. To achieve it, women mixed rice powder with, naturally, lead. We're 3 civilizations in, and lead is starting to look like the ancient equivalent of foundation. But China brought real innovation to the beauty world. They invented nail polish using beeswax, egg whites, and flower petals. The royal family preferred gold and silver nails, which must have been beautiful, but not particularly convenient for opening jars. They also invented the first skincare serums, made with herbal infusions and pearl powder. Pearl powder, in case you're wondering, is exactly what it sounds like: ground-up pearls. It was believed to give the skin a luminous glow, which it probably did, right before draining your bank account. There were also hair treatments involving walnut oil, flower essences, and highly flammable lacquer, which created silky, glossy hair that doubled as a fire hazard. But of all Chinese beauty traditions, one stands out for its delicacy and sorrow: the pursuit of the willow waist. Women bound themselves into extremely tight corset-like garments to make their waists appear thin and flexible like willow branches. This was long before steel-boned corsets. It was simply cloth, determination, and a mild disregard for the respiratory system. Let's drift onward to lands of empire, ambition, and an alarming skincare routine involving bird droppings. Japanese beauty rituals were elegant, detail-oriented, and occasionally puzzling in the softest, most respectful way. For instance, Heian-era noblewomen valued extremely long hair, not shoulder length, not waist length, floor length. Hair so long that it quietly collected dust as they walked by. They kept it sleek with camellia oil, which at least didn't involve heavy metals or crocodile dung. Progress. They also practiced ohaguro, the custom of blackening the teeth. Not because they disliked dental hygiene, but because black teeth were considered beautiful, mature, and charming. The mixture used to stain the teeth: vinegar, tea, and iron filings. A soothing beverage for the teeth in a way. Eyebrows, however, were optional. Women shaved them off and then drew new ones high on their foreheads. These painted brows were soft smudges of charcoal called wikimayu, positioned approximately where no human eyebrow has ever naturally grown. But beauty, like art, is subjective and occasionally abstract. Their skincare also included powdered rice, ground seashells, and, here it comes, nightingale droppings. Yes, the famous uguisu facial. It contained natural enzymes that brightened the skin. It also contained everything else droppings tend to contain. And yet, the results were apparently lovely, proving once again that ancient beauty standards were equal parts commitment and chaos. Let's drift again, deeper into the West, where Rome, predictably, made beauty both extravagant and faintly ridiculous. Roman women adored makeup. They painted, powdered, plucked, and perfumed. They were also judged for it by male writers who claimed cosmetics were deceitful, while conveniently omitting that many Roman men also used them. Hypocrisy is timeless. The Roman obsession with pale skin continued the grand tradition of "let's use lead again and pretend it's fine." Their face powder, called cerussa, was white lead. Their blush sometimes contained red cinnabar, which was mercury sulfide. Their lipstick included iron oxide or crushed insects. Their eyeliner contained soot and, wait for it, even more lead. At this point, if ancient beauty had a mascot, it would be a small, cheerful lump of heavy metal. Romans also bleached their hair using vinegar and goat urine, which produced a vibrant shade best described as aggressively blonde. Or they simply wore wigs imported from Germanic tribes, whose hair was considered superior, presumably because it contained less urine. Perfumes were everywhere. They scented hair, clothes, furniture, pets, and occasionally public baths. Some Romans complained that walking through the city smelled like stumbling into a giant, humid potpourri bowl. To exfoliate, they used pumice stone, which was great for feet and possibly excessive for faces. Hot take: if your skincare tool is also used to smooth marble, maybe reconsider. Roman beauty was bold, committed, and only slightly toxic. Which brings us, in a sleepy drift, to the land that perfected theatrical cosmetics, ancient India. India approached beauty with warmth, spirituality, and the herbal equivalent of a well-stocked apothecary. Women used turmeric, sandalwood, rosewater, and saffron. Finally, ingredients you can put on your face without dying. They massaged their hair with coconut oil. They used henna to tint hands, feet, and hair. These practices have lasted millennia because they work and also don't involve rubbing mineral poisons near the eyes. But Indian beauty had its quirks too. To achieve whitened teeth, some women chewed betel leaves, which, unfortunately, stained the mouth red. A look that varied between charming and "I just ate a pomegranate too enthusiastically." They painted their eyes with kohl. Yes, lead-based again. The world was consistent. They perfumed their bodies with jasmine and wore garlands of flowers so fragrant that one can only assume ancient India smelled wonderful. Let's drift now into a much colder region where beauty treatments were practical, improvisational, and created using whatever you could scrape off a reindeer. Viking women cared about beauty far more than their battle-obsessed modern reputation suggests. They owned combs, tweezers, ear spoons, and even makeup kits. They bathed weekly, which was so shockingly hygienic compared to other Europeans that it caused complaints from less clean neighbors. Their beauty treatments were simple: herbal rinses, braided hairstyles, natural pigments, and the unwavering belief that cleanliness was attractive, a theory that remains undefeated. Their most questionable beauty practice was a wash made of lye, used to lighten hair. Lye, for the uninitiated, is the active ingredient in modern oven cleaner. So yes, Viking blondes achieved their look by lightly marinating their scalp in corrosive soap water. But at least it wasn't lead. Mesopotamian women adored perfume, not light spritzes, not delicate floral hints. Perfume in Mesopotamia was essentially an atmospheric condition. Gardens of aromatic plants existed purely to feed the beauty industry, which tells you how serious they were about smelling nicer than the city's many, many livestock. Their perfumes were thick, resinous oils made with myrrh, cedar, and frankincense, ingredients that sound soothing until you remember they were also used for embalming. So yes, they wanted to smell pleasant, but also mildly mystical. Eye makeup, once again, featured generous amounts of kohl. It gave a smoky, dramatic look and, predictably, contained various minerals we would now handle only while wearing gloves. For lipstick, they used ground-up semi-precious stones mixed with oil. A glamorous detail until you imagine accidentally eating your lipstick and realizing you've consumed the ancient equivalent of gravel in a salad dressing. Hair care was more reasonable: sesame oil, almond oil, and scented washes. Mesopotamian women also styled their hair in elaborate curls using heated sticks. Yes, the curling iron's ancestor existed thousands of years ago, proving that humanity has always been willing to risk mild burns for aesthetics. Let's drift into a civilization that embraced beauty with enthusiasm and a slightly theatrical flair. Persian queens and noblewomen were renowned for their beauty rituals, which mixed luxury with a surprising devotion to grooming. Persian women dyed their hair and brows with henna. They lined their eyes with kohl so intense it could probably be seen from neighboring empires. Their skincare included rosewater, which still exists in modern products because, thankfully, Persians had the sense to avoid using poisons for at least some things. But they also used ground-up realgar, an arsenic sulfide mineral, to achieve certain pigments. Because of course they did. If history teaches us anything, it's that ancient people looked at toxic minerals and said, "Yes, that will be perfect for my face." They also groomed their body hair with a mixture called Z-ray, made from lime, starch, and sometimes more lime. It worked, but only in the way peel-off paint works. Effective, but perhaps more aggressive than necessary. Persian women also loved incense baths, stepping into steam infused with herbs and woods until their bodies acquired a similar scent. It was luxurious, relaxing, and significantly safer than inhaling the fumes from lead-based powders. Let's float onward, slowly, into a land known for its disciplined beauty traditions and a certain fondness for pale faces. Korean women in ancient times pursued a beauty ideal centered around clarity, softness, and calm, the sort of look you only achieve after sleeping well, drinking herbal tea, and somehow living without modern stress. They used white face powders, yes, but these were often made from crushed rice, not lead. A welcome surprise. Their skincare routines included ground mung bean paste for cleansing, camellia oil for hair ginseng, and green tea for toning flower waters for fragrance. It was all very gentle, very soothing, and very healthy, which makes ancient Korea a comforting break from the global tradition of rub poison on your face and hope your gods approve. Still, they weren't fully immune to less pleasant practices. Some whitening powders did contain chalk or clay that dried the skin to parchment. But compared to other civilizations using ingredients you might find in a modern chemistry lab hazard report, Korea was doing fine. Let's float over to Southeast Asia, where beauty mixed with tropical creativity. In regions like Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, women developed beauty rituals that could easily pass as modern spa treatments if you ignore the occasional involvement of fermented ingredients. Coconut oil was the star. Hair was soaked in it. Skin was massaged with it. Babies were probably slippery with it for the first several months of life. Coconut oil was the answer to nearly everything, including problems that didn't exist yet. Women used turmeric pastes, jasmine water, pandan leaf treatments, and ground rice scrubs. All natural, all soothing, all delightfully free of heavy metals. They also practiced betel nut chewing, which stained the lips and mouth red. Aesthetic? Maybe. Safe? Not especially. But at least it didn't slowly dissolve your bones like Roman lead powder. Let's glide westward now, to a region where beauty rituals were inventive, colorful, and occasionally alarming. Across the Americas, beauty traditions varied widely, but many shared a love of natural pigments. Indigenous women painted their faces with crushed berries, clay, charcoal, ochre, annatto seeds, not for vanity alone, but for ceremony, identity, and protection. They washed their hair with plant ashes mixed with water, which created a natural lye shampoo. Effective, yes. Moisturizing? Not exactly. Some used avocado masks, some used aloe, some used cactus sap, all of which sound like they belong in a modern organic skincare boutique with soft flute music playing. And while their beauty routines were generally safe, they were not without commitment. Some Amazonian tribes plucked every strand of body hair, one by one, which is intense, but at least they weren't rubbing mercury on themselves. Let's drift softly toward the final stop on this meandering journey, a land famous for its mythology, its marble, and its ability to turn beauty into performance. The Minoans of Crete painted their skin white, darkened their eyes, and colored their lips with pigments that probably tasted faintly of crushed dirt. Their beauty ideal was striking: white skin, red lips, dark curls, and outfits that left the chest uncovered. Because modesty was apparently optional on a warm Mediterranean island, they perfumed themselves with herbs and used beeswax-based creams. Their hair was curled, braided, and adorned with gold threads, which sounds beautiful, but likely weighed as much as a small bird. Minoan women used saffron for rouge, which was safe and lovely. Then, for other colors, they used minerals with questionable toxicity. There's always balance in the ancient world. A little saffron, a little arsenic, like a skincare yin and yang no one asked for. Beauty across ancient cultures was a mixture of brilliance and confusion. People ground pearls, painted teeth, shaved eyebrows, burned hair, and exfoliated with sand. They embraced flowers, herbs, oils, poisons, and sometimes droppings, all in pursuit of an ideal that moved quietly through time, changing shape but never disappearing. As we drift through these ancient rooms, filled with powders and perfumes, it becomes clear. Humans have always worked very, very hard to look their best, even when their best involved ingredients better suited for constructing a temple wall than for skincare. Let's keep wandering. The night is long, and history is patient.